Hello, and welcome to English Podcast Voice. I'm Ava and this is Noah.
Welcome back to the deep dive. You know, usually when we sit down here, the table is groaning under the weight of the material.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm talking about 100-page sociological studies, dense economic forecasts, white papers on AI that you need a PhD just to read the abstract.
Right. We are usually in the business of complexity.
We are, but today is different. I'm holding a stack of papers here that feels, well, surprisingly light.
It is light,
Yeah.
but I would argue it's deceptively so.
Okay, so the title of our source material today is Simple English for Describing Hobbies and Leisure Activities.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I can just hear the listener right now. They're probably pausing the audio thinking, wait, did I accidentally click on a generic language lesson for beginners?
And you really need to stick with us on this one.
You do, because as I sat down with this text, which, yes, on the surface is a guide for language learners, I had this realization. It isn't just a vocabulary list. It's almost like a manifesto for modern living disguised as a grammar lesson.
That is exactly how I read it. It frames itself as this functional tool. Here's how you say, I like reading, or I enjoy cooking.
Right.
But if you look at the meta text, the instructions around the words, the tone, the whole atmosphere it creates, it's actually a guide on how to deprogram yourself from the hustle culture we all live in.
It's like a permission slip.
Precisely. And the vibe check, it happens in the very first paragraph. I mean, think about how most language textbooks start.
They're usually high pressure.
So high pressure, pay attention, memorize this chart, don't make mistakes. But this text, it starts with an instruction to the reader's nervous system. It actually says, take a moment to relax. You don't need to rush.
This is a calm space. That line stopped me cold.
Yeah.
It's defining the learning environment not as a test ground or a place of performance, but as a sanctuary.
Mm-hmm.
So our mission today is to look at this deceptively simple text and explore how stripping language down to its absolute nuts and bolts might actually be the key to understanding why we have such a hard time just having fun.
We do complicate fun, don't we? Constantly.
Mm-hmm.
We professionalize it, we monetize it, we optimize it for social media. This text just takes us back to zero.
So let's start with the core definition. How does this source material define a hobby? It doesn't talk about, extracurricular skill acquisition or resume building.
No, and thank goodness for that. It defines a hobby as the things you like to do, the things that make you feel good.
The things that make you feel good. It's radically simple.
It cuts right through all the noise.
Yeah.
And notice what isn't there.
What's not there?
Obligation, improvement, status. It doesn't say things that make you smarter or things that make you fit. It is purely hedonic in the absolute best sense of the word.
Okay, let's unpack the architecture of this simplicity, because the text is structured in a way that just forces you to start small. It literally tells the learner, listen first, and then it offers this foundational sentence, which is, 4 words long, I have a hobby.
Think about the heavy lifting that tiny little sentence is doing. I have a hobby. In a social context, especially in the West, we're almost always defined by our utility. You meet someone at a party, what's the first question?
What do you do? Always.
What do you do? And the answer is usually, I'm an engineer, or I'm a parent, I'm a manager. Those are roles of service or output. Saying I have a hobby is a claim to personal territory.
Huh. I never thought of it that way.
It's stating that a part of your life exists just for you, completely unrelated to what you produce for the economy.
It establishes identity without any of the complexity. And the text, it immediately grounds that in specific examples. It lists reading, listening to music, walking, cooking.
And what stands out to me about that list is just how accessible it is.
Totally.
We often feel this pressure that a hobby needs to be unique or interesting to be valid. I restore 17th century clock mechanisms, or I base jump in the Swiss Alps.
Right. If it's not Instagram worthy, or if it doesn't make for a great dinner party story, does it even count? I feel like we've completely lost the plot on what a hobby is actually for.
Exactly. But this text, it validates walking. It validates listening to music. And it uses the ing form primarily, I like reading, I like walking.
Right, the gerund.
Grammatically, yes, the gerund, treating the action as a concept. And it notes this structure is simple, clear. But beyond the grammar, look at the categorization. It acknowledges that some hobbies are big, some are small, some are quiet, some active.
That part really stood out to me because society definitely ranks hobbies, let's be real.
Oh, it does.
Running a marathon is culturally seen as a better hobby than sitting on the couch watching movies.
Yeah.
One is productive, disciplined, good. The other is often framed as lazy or, bad.
And the text just flattens that hierarchy completely. It explicitly says all of them matter. And later, it reinforces this with a line I think everyone, and I mean everyone, needs to hear. There is no right or wrong hobby.
That's a massive validation.
It is. If you're a learner, you're usually insecure about your vocabulary. But this text makes sure you aren't insecure about your interests. Whether you're sitting quietly or running around, the text validates the activity on one single metric.
Does it make you feel good?
That's it. That's the only thing that matters.
There's a quote here I highlighted. You don't need to explain everything. One sentence is enough.
I love that. It's such a relief, isn't it?
It's so contrary to how we usually talk. We usually offer a disclaimer or justification. Oh, I like painting, but I'm not very good at it.
Or I play guitar, just for fun, though.
Yeah.
We apologize for being amateurs.
We do. We hedge. We protect ourselves from judgment.
And one sentence is enough. It's just such a liberating concept.
Yeah.
Saying the joy is self-evident.
Yeah.
You don't need a paragraph to justify why you like cooking.
You just like cooking. End of statement.
The fact that you enjoy it is the only evidence required.
This leads us right into the next big theme, which I think is probably the strongest part of this whole source material, removing the pressure of perfection. The text lays out this rule, and it does it very enthusiastically. Hobbies are not about being perfect. They are about enjoying your time.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, how we operate professionally, everything is about optimization.
Everything. Key performance indicators, quarterly growth, skill stacking.
We are obsessed with getting better. This source material just puts up a giant red stop sign. It places specific constraints on what a hobby isn't.
It's almost aggressive about it. It states, your hobby is not about money. It is not about success.
That is such a countercultural statement in our current era. I mean, how often do you hear someone start a hobby and immediately get asked, oh, you should sell those on Etsy?
Instantly. You should start a YouTube channel about that.
It's the side hustle mentality.
Yes. We've been trained to view leisure as pre-monetization. Like if you aren't making money from it, you're just wasting the potential of the activity.
And the text just flat out counters that impulse.
Yeah.
It says you don't need to be the best, you just need to enjoy it. It's decoupling the activity from the outcome.
So the value isn't in the product.
It's not about the painting you made or the distance you ran. It's about the feeling of doing it.
It's reclaiming amateurism, doing something for the love of it. I mean, that's literally the Latin root amateur rather than for professional gain. But okay, let's shift gears to the logistics because the text moves into time, routine, and reality.
The when of hobbies. And this is where the rubber meets the road, isn't it?
It is. It walks through the temporal aspects. It suggests saying things like, I do my hobby in my free time, after work, in the evening, on the weekend. It kind of frames the hobby as a punctuation mark in the day, a boundary.
But what I really appreciate here is the reality check. The text is incredibly honest about modern life. It doesn't pretend we all have endless hours of leisure or that we live in some pastoral fantasy. It includes the specific admission, I don't always have time for my hobby.
Work is busy. Life is busy. The text actually includes those phrases as part of the lesson.
Which is crucial, because often when you read about self-care or wellness, there's this hidden guilt trip. You know the type. If you aren't meditating for an hour a day, you aren't prioritizing yourself.
Oh yeah. You have the same 24 hours as Beyoncé.
Exactly that. This source material says that sentence, I don't have time, is very real. Many people feel this way. It validates the struggle. It doesn't scold you for being busy.
It also talks about the evolution of interest, which I thought was a really nice touch. It says, sometimes you start a hobby when you are young, sometimes you start later in life, and then my hobbies change.
And the text describes that statement as simple, honest.
Simple, honest.
It allows for growth. The person you were 10 years ago might have loved playing competitive sports, but the person you are now might just prefer listening to jazz and drinking tea. The text tells us that this change is normal. You aren't locked into one identity forever.
So it avoids that sunk cost fallacy where you feel like you have to keep doing something just because you've always done it. But there's an emotional aspect of time that the text brings up that I really want to dig into. Anticipation. It gives the learner the phrase, I look forward to my hobby.
That is a huge psychological shift. Even if you're tired, and the text explicitly mentions being tired and having a long day,
right,
the hobby serves as a beacon. I look forward to it. It changes your relationship with the future. You aren't just dreading the next task on your to-do list, you're actively anticipating a moment of joy.
It's the light at the end of the tunnel. Which brings us squarely to the emotional payoff. The text makes some pretty strong claims about what hobbies actually do for our mental state. It says your mind becomes calm and you forget about stress, you forget about problems.
It's essentially prescribing hobbies as a form of mental regulation and gives the learner these very specific positive affirmations to use. My hobby helps me relax. My hobby makes me happy. My hobby helps me feel better.
My hobby helps me feel better. That's surprisingly vulnerable for a beginner's English text.
It is.
It's admitting that maybe you didn't feel great before.
Precisely. It acknowledges that there's a baseline of stress or feeling quiet inside, as the text puts it, and the hobby elevates you from that state. It's a tool for emotional management. And notice how it handles the social versus the solitary aspect.
The internal versus external debate.
Yeah.
The text says you can say, I share my hobby with others, which, helps connect, start conversations. But it also says, I do my hobby alone.
And it labels both as good and normal. That distinction is vital because so often language learning materials focus heavily on communication.
Talking to others, being outgoing.
Using the language to network, yeah. But this text validates the solitary experience just as much. It calls the solitary hobby your space, your moment. It validates the introvert's approach to leisure just as much as the extrovert's.
I really like that balance. It's not pushing you to be a social butterfly if that's just not what your hobby is about.
Right.
Now, I want to get to what we're calling the practice of joy, which is sort of the meta-analysis of this whole text. Because as I was reading it, I realized the text is doing something to the reader physically.
You notice the breathing instructions.
Yes. It's wild. A language guide that tells you to breathe.
It's explicitly using language learning as a vehicle for mindfulness. Throughout the text, you see these little instructions like take a slow breath, take a small pause, or let that feeling stay for a moment.
So it's trying to regulate your nervous system while you learn the vocabulary.
Yes. So you're not just learning the phrase, I am relaxed. You're actually being instructed to relax while you say it.
So it's somatic learning. It's tying the linguistic acquisition to a physical sensation.
Exactly. If you're tense, clenching your jaw while you're saying, my hobby helps me relax, the sentence isn't actually true. The text forces you to align your body with the words. It's a fascinating pedagogy.
It suggests you can't truly learn the meaning of these words unless you're feeling them.
You have to feel them. And it connects this back to the why. Why does any of this matter? The text says, talking about hobbies helps you connect. It helps people know you. But then it pivots to this incredible concept of personal ownership.
Oh, this line.
My hobby is just for me.
That's the one. My hobby is just for me.
And the text notes that this sentence feels peaceful. And just think about why.
It removes the need for approval.
It completely removes it.
Yeah.
In a world of likes, shares, and retweets, where every activity is potential content for public consumption, saying this is just for me is a radical act of privacy. It protects the joy from external judgment.
It really does. It creates a boundary. It's basically saying, this part of my life is not for consumption. It's not for the algorithm. It is not for the feedback of strangers. And the text sums up this benefit with the word balance. It says a hobby provides balance between work, rest, and enjoyment.
All together. That's the phrase it uses.
Yeah.
It integrates the hobby into the ecosystem of a healthy life.
Yeah.
It's not an escape from life. It's a necessary part of life.
Right.
You can't just have work and sleep. You need that third pillar.
And it's interesting because usually balance is treated as this impossible goal we're all failing at. But here, it's treated as a natural outcome of just doing the thing you like.
Right. It's not something you achieve. It's something that happens when you allow yourself that just for me time.
Before we wrap up, I just want to touch on how the text ends, because it gets really philosophical about the learning process itself. It kind of circles back to the very beginning.
It reminds the listener, learning happens slowly, naturally. It re-emphasizes that simply showing up, you showed up, you listened, is real progress.
That is such a compassionate way to view learning. It's not about the test score, it's about the presence.
Yeah.
You stayed present.
And that applies to the hobby as well as the English. The value is in the presence, not the perfection. It's telling the reader, you are enough just as you are, learning at this pace.
So we've gone on quite a journey with this little text. We started with the simple statement, I have a hobby, walked through the examples, stripped away the pressure of money and success, acknowledged that sometimes we're too busy, and landed on this idea that hobbies give us balance and a private sanctuary.
We moved from a simple grammar structure to an entire philosophy of living, from I like walking to my hobby gives me balance.
It's amazing how much depth is hidden in simple English. It almost makes me wonder if we hide behind big words sometimes.
I think we definitely do. We use complexity to mask uncertainty or to sound impressive. We use jargon to gatekeep or to prove our worth. But this text proves that the most profound truths, I am happy, I am calm, this is for me, are best expressed simply.
That's a deep thought.
I mean, if you can't explain your joy simply, do you really possess it?
That is a heavy question and a good one. It really challenges the way we communicate about our entire lives.
It does.
So here's the thought we want to leave you with today. We spend so much time trying to articulate our lives with precision, trying to find the perfect witty caption or the most impressive explanation for what we do with our time. But if you stripped all of that away, if you took the advice of this text and removed the difficult words, the justification, and the need for approval, could you simply say, I am happy with your hobby? And more importantly, would that actually be enough for you?
A question worth sitting with.
Take a slow breath, enjoy your hobby, whatever it is, and we'll see you in the next deep dive.
See you then.
If you found this episode helpful, don't forget to subscribe and tell in the comments from where you are watching.